Now, here is the best part. You have a head start if you are amongst the very young at heart. Thank you, folks. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor, and believe me, I'll never forget it, the Vice President of the United States, Hubert H. Humphrey.
When an old friend like Jimmy Durante seemed to come almost within a syllable of introducing him as Herbert Hoover, it became one of those facts that said a lot about how Hubert Humphrey's campaign was moving in September.
Yes, he did. They did in there.
All right.
Go ahead.
Whenever you're ready.
Go ahead.
Okay?
Go ahead. Right. Okay, quiet.
It was his judgment. And the judgment of how in the name of common sense can I see through that?
We have a microphone.
At one time, his party's national committee had $10,000 in one account and a deficit of about $400,000 in another. A TV half hour in prime time can cost around $85,000.
You don't think we ought to have a little podium up here?
I wouldn't shoot it anyway.
Because he was far behind in the polls, contributors were not standing in line to help pay bills this size.
Just standing like this is better for a half hour.
The shots down here are excellent.
Stand by. Tape is rolling.
What about this light? Don't we have that
Hold
one?
it. Do we have lights here, Irving?
He had eyes that were sensitive to the special quartz iodine lights of TV and movies. And this sometimes forced him to look fierce as he approached
My
the
fellow
close of a half-hour speech.
Tonight, I want to share with you my thoughts as a citizen and as a candidate for President of the United States.
About the middle of the month, he took an evening off with his wife Muriel for dinner with his running mate and Mrs. Muskie. Later, when the two couples went bowling in the basement of Washington's Executive Offices building, the automatic pin setter jammed after the second or third frame.
The man said, just before he got his strike, nine.
You got.
Uh-oh. Yeah, let's go up here and see what's wrong. Watch it.
What do you think, Ed?
I don't know. I wouldn't suggest anything from that angle.
How do you like that, Eddie?
Good. Here, yeah, now. Okay.
All is well.
Thank God there's one problem we solved today.
Yeah.
Temporarily.
Well, that'll work. Who says that the age of automation has got us stymied? Never.
We're very proud of you. You thought we had lost.
I sort of have, in all of my thinking, I say the year 2000. I want to live that long. I really do, just to see what's going to happen. I'll be 88 or 89 years old in the year 2000. I think I can make it. And I want to be able to, I want to keep in mind that everything that I do as a public official, whatever capacity, but surely if I'm president, will affect the lives of people who live at the year 2000. And a majority of the Americans that we're talking to today that are living at this very moment will be alive in the year 2000. So it's not wrong for a president to be thinking about what kind of an America is there going to be in the year 2000. And when he makes a decision, he better be thinking about that, because a majority of the people that he serves in 1969, 1970, 1971, 72, the next term of the next president, will affect the lives of a majority of the people who are alive right now in the year 2000. So I'm a 2000-year man. I'm not going to be thinking about, everybody wants to argue about what we did in 1966. I can't do one damn thing about that. That's gone. There's nothing that you can do about it except to get into a fight. It's a good debating point. You can always debate about what you should have done. This shoulda club, it's got more members than almost the human race. Should have done this, should have done that. And the coulda club, I could have done this and I could have done that. The question is, what are you going to do? And what are you doing now? I think if we can get people to project themselves and their thinking, their plans, their hopes, down the line, down that post, down in way, you know, to the next decade, that's what's going to make the difference in this country.
What made the difference for Hubert Humphrey, he described once as a sense of tomorrow that he was lucky to find where he grew up. The country around Dolan, South Dakota is still spoken of as a hard place to make a dollar. Population 400 to 500, depending on how far you think the town extends. But there was opportunity in it. As one biographer said, there is a lasting faith here in education and tomorrow, in rain and reason and debate. And the people tend to answer yes to the question asked long ago by Cain. There is a tradition of debate, but also another of settling disputes without violence, a tradition of peace. Hubert Humphrey would graduate from high school class of 1929, a watershed year. Soon there would be a summer when for 90 days the sky was black with dust. When the two town banks failed, the Humphrey drugstore went bankrupt and the family home went up for sale. He dropped out of college for several years.
I am a sentimentalist. I'm often accused of it, as if I guess it's supposed to be a weakness. If it is, then I'm guilty. I'm a sentimentalist about this republic, about this country, about what it has meant to me, a child of the Depression, a man born in the plains of humble parentage, and yet I can stand before you as a candidate for the office of president.
An old friend, George McGovern, grew up about 100 miles away.
This guy feels these things in his guts. When he speaks out about the problems of the poor, or the problem of the guy out on the land, the farmer on the land, he's talking from memories that are very vivid. The lessons that we learned from the Depression in the 1930s will still serve us well in the 1960s. And Hubert Humphrey learned those lessons out here in the school of hardship. He learned the importance of having people in public office who have a heart that beats for the ordinary citizen. And we still need that kind of compassion today just as desperately as we needed it in the 1930s.
The Prairie passed many other qualities to its graduates. Within little more than a decade after leaving Dolan, Hubert Humphrey was a young mayor of Minneapolis, supplying a hard-boiled kind of leadership that cleaned the corruption from a major city.
And we on the police department had just about given up hope of ever having a mayor who would have the guts and the honesty to clean up that situation. So when young Humphrey came along, I think he was 30, 31 or 2 years old, something like that. So we went to work. And we closed Minneapolis tight. And I like the cut of his jib. Now, anyone who thinks that it doesn't take guts and it doesn't take honesty to smash a multi-million-dollar racket in a large city had better guess again. Humphrey had the guts and he had the honesty, for which I will eternally admire him.
It's a wonderful thing to live in a country that offers such opportunity. But my friends, it hasn't offered that same opportunity to everybody. And what Lincoln was trying to teach us was that we must open the gates of opportunity. That it wasn't good enough just to have some of us who had a chance. That every man must have a chance.
The mayor police chief Ed Ryan admired soon announced for the Senate at the 1948 Democratic Convention. He spoke of an old issue in a way that set his party on a new course and started some members of it on a walkout that has lasted to the present day. It is still his most famous speech.
Of the civil rights which we have mentioned in the minority report. To those who say that we are rushing this issue of civil rights, I say to them, we are 172 years late. To those who say that this civil rights program is an infringement on states' rights, I say this: the time has arrived in America for the Democratic Party to get out of the shadows of states' rights and to walk forthrightly into the bright sunshine of human rights.
Well, as we approach the last few weeks of this presidential campaign, I believe the Republican candidate owes it to the people to come out of the shadows. Would you mind bringing your television camera down here? You fellas do an awful lot to promote that with that camera. Now, come on down here where you belong.
But 20 years later, he would have to fight to be heard by audiences that had forgotten 48, or never heard of his record in the years in between.
Meeting up there, I guess we'll have ours down here if that's okay with you. I want to talk to you about what I consider to be the serious issues in this campaign.
In September, there would be times when the Democratic dialogue he spoke of looked like a one-way street. When even his younger colleague from Massachusetts got exactly the same treatment.
Wanted to hold up the nuclear proliferation treaty, which Robert Kennedy said was the most vital issue that we faced.
But the shouting had results that were helpful. It tended to bring back into public memory a Humphrey record that has been called one of the most outstanding in the history of the Senate. On civil liberties, civil rights.
I've had many people ask me how I got interested in civil rights. I said, well, just because I'm a person. I didn't feel it was necessary to go to college to get interested in civil rights. In fact, I never ever heard a bigoted statement in our family. It's really a fact that we were just brought up to respect people. My dad used to tell me that the lowliest man in town might be the man that you need someday. He used to let me believe that the people were basically good and that you ought to look for the goodness in them. So I've had lots of these intellectual friends of mine come to me and say, well, now, where did you get this stimulus for the civil rights? And I said, I got it when I was born. I guess we just were brought up to believe that people are people.
At Waverly, Minnesota, on the shores of a small lake, is the home where some of the landmark accomplishments of the past 20 years have been talked over through the nights before finding their way to the floor of the Senate. For Hubert Humphrey, a great blast in the early 60s represented a day of achievement. It was the last nuclear test in the atmosphere by the United States or Russia. After the test ban treaty was signed, John Kennedy said to his friend, "This one was yours, Hubert." And he is supposed to have added, "And it had better work."
He hasn't fooled around with the sideline issues. He's been in the main arena where the fight is on.
Today I have introduced, along with Senator Fulbright, Chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, the Peace Corps proposal. It is designed to mobilize the skill and the talent of American youth, in particular, for service overseas. It is a voluntary Peace Corps.
I think one can only look to really the record of the Vice President and realize that in the past, he was always considered the man of the future, whether it was in the control of nuclear weapons, the test ban treaty, the suggestion of the Peace Corps, or the food for peace, civil rights and opportunities for our citizens, greater educational opportunities for the young people of this nation, greater economic advancement for all of our society.
They had become friends long before, even before West Virginia, when in 1960, Humphrey picked his way across the state in a rented bus while his opponent cruised above in a personal plane and always seemed one jump ahead. In his first race for the presidency, he was headed for defeat. He would face it as a lesson to be learned from one he respected and whom he'd go on to support whatever lay ahead for both of them.